Hello, check. Let's do the Air Force hat. It's either Air Force or NASA. What do you vote for? I vote for the Air Force. Okay. Oh, and I have something's playing on my phone. I don't need that. Check, sound check. I think everything's plugged in. I think I've got some good glare going on my glasses. I just wanted to come on because it's Friday and I wanted to share some good news. If you hadn't heard yet, you probably have. There's a few things of good news, a few pieces of good news. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All of my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. Please like, share, and subscribe. Turn on your notification bell to ring. Here's the cute Incredible Hulk thumb, as I call it. So yeah, the best news, I don't know, they're both great. That freaking 2-year-old boy in Arizona that was saved by a dog. It doesn't get any better than that, does it, Miss Anna Bees? Hello. How are you, my dear? Did you see that I was able to do the link to the description to your channel in yesterday's video and in the day before yesterday's video? So yeah, you probably saw that story about the little 2-year-old boy. Oh my goodness, I was so excited. I actually wasn't going to do a live today just because it's like the holiday weekend. But then I was like, you know what? We need to talk about some good things in the world. And then Garcia, the man in the El Salvador prison, was visited with in person by the senator. I'm sure you saw that too, Annabise, correct? And I'm curious what your thoughts were, because you know me, I'm very suspicious. Sus AF. Why didn't they have any like full facial shots of the Mr. Garcia in El Salvador? Why did they show him from the side and the back with a baseball cap on? Huh? Because my guess is that it was him. That is definitely my guess, because if it was, say, a paid actor that looked a lot like him, even though the senator hadn't met him before, he would probably be able to tell that it was a paid actor. That's what I'm thinking, Annabise. So I think that the senator met with somebody. I just don't know if that's him. Like, why wouldn't they just show full direct face without a hat? But he had a hat on the whole time. And I don't know what it said on the hat. I saw a thumbnail for someone's video that made it look like there was a problem with whatever he had on the hat. But I didn't have a chance to watch that video yet. So I hope it's him. I hope that they wouldn't do that. But why would they just all of a sudden produce him and go, oh, here you are? Unless they were just trying to prove a sign of life. But unless they're going to let his wife see him and see his whole face. The senator never met him before. He's only going to see photographs of him. I think it's crazy that they didn't show his full face shot without a hat. That's what I think. Was it Chiefs Super Bowl championship hat? Was it? I'm not sure. I didn't see what it was. It was just on a small thumbnail. I didn't get a close up. Do you think that's what it was? Because what would be controversial about that? I'm completely unaware. You think it was? What would be controversial about that? I'm super interested. Nothing. Okay. Let me see if I can pull up the video real quick that had the thumbnail with that. I want to say it was Adam Mockler, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Man, and if I sneeze, I apologize. My eyes are itching. I've taken my allergy meds, but it's super warm right now. So let's see. What was I looking up? I was looking up Adam Mockler to see if it was on his channel. I think it was. But if I can't find it real quick, I'll give up because you know me. I drive myself nuts when I'm sitting here with my phone in my hand. It is Adam Mockler. You missed Trump's scary plan in these viral photos. So I will put a link to this in the description. This was 3 hours ago. The big yellow letters on the thumbnail says, "This is scary," and it points to the hat. Why would it say this is scary? Let's just watch it for a second if we can. We'll watch it together momentarily.
All right, just to be candid, I'm still incredibly worried about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and I'll explain exactly why. But right now is a time to double down, to be louder, and continue applying pressure. Because it worked. This tweet says, Trump and Bukele never would have let Van Hollen see Kilmar if they didn't feel the political pressure from the American people who are pissed about this man's due process being taken away. Don't tell me people don't care. And all of that pressure led to Senator Chris Van Hollen finally being granted access to meet with Kilmar after over a month of no proof of body. And while these photos are amazing, it had me feeling very relieved and happy last night. I was very relieved. There's still an eerie feeling I get from this whole trip, from the response coming from MAGA and what's going to happen over the next few days to months. I think that there's still a lot we need to talk about and continue applying pressure. So if you want to help me double down and boost this message, make sure you drop a like and subscribe below. But let's start here. Senator Chris Van Hollen said...
I'm going to pause it for a second just for fair use. And Adam Mockler is one of the handful of like early 20-something guys that have incredible channels. Like Adam Mockler, Jack Coachella, I'm not sure how you say his last name, Luke Beasley. There's a couple others too, like David Packman and Brian Cohen are in there, but the first three are my favorites.
I said my main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar. Tonight, I had that chance. I have called his wife, Jennifer, to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return. And I'll tell you what I found especially eerie about these photos. But first, even when Van Hollen landed, I kind of got the vibes of when Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown decades back.
Ooh.
And I didn't expect it to be this crazy whatsoever.
I know a lot about
But I still
Jonestown.
got this eerie vibe. And if you didn't know, Congressman Leo Ryan was gunned down while boarding a plane leaving Jonestown on the Strip. So
I've studied a lot about Jonestown. I actually have a friend. She's a friend of my mother. She's still alive. She escaped from Jonestown. She lived in Los Angeles, and I don't remember what age she was, but like her whole family went to Jonestown, and I think the whole family survived, but she had a lot of scary stories to tell.
that is not what I was expecting, but I got similar eerie vibes. Then these photos came out, and yes, I was relieved, but I still got similar eerie vibes, and I can explain exactly why.
Sorry,
Let's just start with this White House photo that I found so incredibly disgusting. On the left, it shows a grieving mother. Her daughter was killed by an undocumented immigrant, and it's like, yeah, get that immigrant. If there's a murderer who's here illegally and he killed a 12-year-old child, yeah, get him out. I'm not going to defend him. But then what the White House does is puts it next to Kilmar Abrego Garcia and tries to imply that Trump has empathy for the victims while Democrats have empathy for criminals. But Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not a criminal. This is the White House accounts being openly racist. Just because this dude has brown skin, they're saying that he's an MS-13 gang member. It is so incredibly gross to have a juxtaposed image with Senator Van Hollen meeting with someone who was being tortured, someone who got kidnapped.
And, you know, the MAGAs, they only care about the white people. Let's be straightforward. Like even the shooter from Florida State University yesterday, a white kid who has photos of himself wearing a MAGA hat on his social media. And then you know, little T, Donnie, tries to make everything about him. He tries to separate himself from those people. But what blows my mind is that those people that are white always seem to be taken into custody alive. If they're not white, they don't get taken into custody alive much of the time. So, and you know, they don't have to be the mass shooter to have that happen. They can be shopping for cat food at Walmart, or you know, jogging while not being white, or so many other problematic situations. um Anyway, should we watch a little bit more of this, Adam Mockler? It is 9 minutes long. We'll just watch a little bit more.
And try to say that talking to a wrongfully detained migrant is somehow equivalent to ignoring a crime. That's what he's trying to say right there, by the way. It only makes sense. This only makes sense.
They always try to make Rachel Morin the poster child, and Lake and Riley, the two beautiful white women who just happen to have platinum blonde hair. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that MAGA loves the platinum blonde hair. And both of those women, I believe, were assaulted, violated, and taken out, you know, extinguished by illegal aliens. So, migrants, undocumented. So, yeah, that's terrible, but it's terrible regardless of their documentation status. And that doesn't make other folks that are legally here, that doesn't make them guilty of anything. It's stupid.
If you view migrants as subhuman, this only makes sense if you believe that brown people don't deserve due process and that some people are beyond dignity. You guys get the implications they're drawing right there. They're trying to imply that Senator Chris Van Hollen somehow doesn't have empathy for victims, it's all disgusting, a disgusting distortion of events. And that's why I said this gets increasingly eerie. Now, I want to point out what Bukele said himself, because it's twisted. But first, let's go back to these photos. And I want to tell you what really started to creep me out last night as I thought about it more. So I remember first looking at these photos and being incredibly relieved, understandably so. I was like, all right, he's alive.
I was nervous right away.
He looks like he's in decent shape. But the thing is, they dressed him up in a bunch of really nice clothes, which is fine. You can put him in a button-up shirt and khakis. I understand that. But I was like, they even gave...
I was under the impression that he was given the clothes that he had been wearing when he was arrested, when he was detained. And remember, he was detained while picking up his 5-year-old autistic son from school. Him and his wife have 3 kids, and his 5-year-old autistic son was in the back seat when he got detained.
From a baseball cap. That's really interesting that they gave him a baseball cap. They really were feeling friendly, huh? No, as I thought about it more, there are reports that the first thing that happens when you touch down at this prison is they shave your head against your will. So even though these photos are relieving, of course, there's still just an eerie vibe. They're covering him up with a baseball cap. They're using very selective photos. They only released 3 or 4 photos.
3, I think.
Senator Chris Van Hollen is going to go into detail about what it was like. Were the conversations monitored? Was there security around there? Also,
I would hope they were videotaped.
If El Salvador and the Trump admin really think Abrego Garcia is a prominent MS-13 gang member, which he's not. He is not. Why would they let this guy walk free? This undermines their entire argument. But again, their argument was never strong in the first place. They admitted themselves they illegally deported this man. But I mean, going back to the White House and the MAGA reaction to this is so incredibly gross. Just to be clear one more time, the tragedy that the woman experienced on the left has nothing to do with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's not connected to that crime at all.
It's ridiculous.
He has no
propaganda.
Record. He has 0 charges. He has a court order saying he shouldn't be deported. He has a court order saying that he likely isn't a threat to this country. So I swear to you, the Trump admin is trying to play a slippery game here where they try to equate this mother's daughter who just got murdered to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It is a sick and twisted game. And even Bukele himself tweeted out, "I love chess." This one I found incredibly disgusting. So as Kilmar Abrego Garcia,
that President Bukele has been making some very flippant and bizarre tweets, and those are currently being used as evidence against him in court. So good, keep it up. idiot. Thank you for that. We can thank him.
Being walked back to Seacott, a prison that is known for only having one way out, and that one way out is death. So Bukele, for his part, decided to tweet and revel in this. He tweeted out, quote, "I love chess," which is incredibly annoying and Trumpian. He's acting as if this entire process, deporting a man against the law, ripping away from his family, holding him there, shaving his head, then parading him out for a photo op, was all some strategic geopolitical game. This isn't chess. He wasn't playing.
But it is a strategic geopolitical game. He's making money off of our taxpayer dollars. We're paying to have these people held in prison there. And also, these people could be used as soldiers against the homegrowns, in my estimation.
Chess. He's doing the Trump thing where he throws darts at a wall and then afterwards draws the targets and act like they hit the target. It's like playing a chess game where the board is littered with the lives of people who were never even supposed to be pawns in the first place. And then he continues. He says, now that he's been confirmed healthy, he gets the honor of staying in El Salvador's custody. Again, do not fall for this whatsoever. The fact that MAGA supporters are even cheering this on is cruel and should be an escalation. How do I explain this? Last night, when these photos came out,
I do think that this is all par for the course that is going to backfire big time. So as annoying as it is, I don't sweat it. I'm like, good, keep it up, MFs, keep it up. I didn't even think of that, Jazz. Oh, the thing with using the multiple sclerosis tweens against the nation. I mean, add those to the J6 love party animals, right? The day of love.
A lot of people were treating it like the win, like it's over. We got the photos. He's alive. We're relieved. I disagree. I think this is only the first step of fighting back. I think we need to keep fighting until Kilmar Abrego Garcia comes back. And I honestly...
Here's a really sick thought for you, Anna Bees. Your brain has probably already gone here just in the last couple of seconds. They could be using the zygote ingredients from these prisoners for incubating baby soldiers for future wars.
am less relieved. I think the reaction from Trump supporters, from MAGA, has made this even more eerie and grim. I know I keep revisiting the word eerie, but that's what it is. There's no picture of him actually with bruises on his neck, but the photos themselves are eerie, the vibes of them. And the fact that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, moments after these photos, was then sent back to Seacott. I mean, do you think when he got back to Seacott, they let him keep his button-up shirt and cap? Or do you think they were like, get on the ground, give us your clothes, put on this jumpsuit. You are no longer somebody who's doing a photo op. You are now our prisoner again. So I guess to wrap this all up, yes, this is a win, but it's a temporary win. I think we still need to be pushing. Kilmore is still in custody. Bukele still says he will not let him go no matter what. And when Bukele says he's earned the honor, gets the honor of staying in El Salvador's custody, it's disgusting. This isn't due process. He got zero due process. This is not justice.
Well, hopefully he won't Epstein himself while there, but I can't imagine that they'd release him to return, because him telling his story would not be good for them at all. So that's my concern.
This is state-sponsored cruelty dressed up as diplomacy, and now we see the media apparatus on full swing. So what's happening here is the full machinery of authoritarianism. The Trump admin, Caroline Leavitt, all of the MAGA media pundits.
Oh, I hate her so much.
Images like these right here, and then Bukele comes out and says more. The message is very, very simple. We'll do what we want to whoever we want. The courts can't stop us. If you object, we'll smear you as weak, disloyal, or say that you're pro-criminal. So if you're still wondering how authoritarianism rises in developed countries, this is how, with well-lit photos, carefully worded captions that appeal to the dumbest minority, or maybe the dumbest part of the population. And the MAGA reaction just made it worse. I mean, I'm going to end it off with this. Michael Knowles had a very disgusting tweet. So 2 days ago, he said, Senator Chris Van Hollen's heart wants what his heart wants. And this is a fake photo. This is an AI-generated photo that he made for some reason. Of Chris
What a
Van
weirdo.
Hollen on a date with someone who genuinely does look to be a gang member. That's what Michael Knowles was going for. And again, this is pure racism. The only way that this would ever make sense is if you view every brown person or every single minority as somebody who's a part of a gang. Just wild. And look at, notice the difference between this. Then Michael Knowles says he did it. Chris Van Hollen actually did my meme. And he's trying to compare this real photo of them talking with emotion to this fake AI photo that he made up a few days ago. Again, you guys see the implication he's making here, right? He's trying to say that anybody who is brown or a migrant is subhuman, and it's wild. It's awful. And we'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe to help boost this message. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace out. Kayak.
Yeah. Those guys, the three that are in their early 20s, Jack, Adam. Hey, that's just like AJR and Ryan, but it's Jack, Adam, and Luke Beasley. At least Jack is in college and does his videos, I think, from his dorm room, but I think one of those two others that they're in college too. And let me just bring it up again. I've brought it up once before in talking about Jack, and his last name is really tricky for me. Let me see if I can find it and try to say it correctly. It's Italian. Jack Cocchiarella, Cocchiarella. And I particularly like him a lot in his content and the way he presents himself in the material. But I do want to acknowledge that he was expelled from a college for allegations of harassment and maybe allegations of violating a woman or more than one. And I don't have any reason to believe that those allegations are true or not true. He certainly doesn't come across as the kind of person who would do that. And if he did do that, I would think that he wouldn't be having his podcast with his numbers of followers. I think he's got like 500,000 or 1 million followers. All three of those guys have roughly 500,000 or 1 million followers, maybe more, maybe less. But it struck me right away when I found that out online that he had that type of troubled history, that maybe it was a smear campaign because of his channel and because of the things that he talks about. You know, maybe it was a MAGA smear campaign. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I just want to reinforce for all of us all the time to remain skeptical. I know that most of us that follow true crime, most of us that look to the internet for information, we know to take everything with a grain of salt, even like I've said in the last few days, even if it's all over the interwebs and it's cross-referenced and there's nothing contrary, that still doesn't mean that it's true, right? I mean, that's in real life and online. So yeah, the little boy named Cody, the 2-year-old that wandered away from his freaking house in his pajama pants and a tank top, I think, walked 7 miles, you guys, over 7 miles. And the rancher whose dog it was that found him, the dog's name is Beuford. And the rancher said that Beuford was like a guardian type of breed. I forget what the breed was, if you remember, Anna, or maybe I can Google it. But he very well could have saved Cody's life. So the rancher thought that Cody probably walked along the power lines that had a clearing. 7 miles. Like, that's crazy for little 2-year-old legs. That is so crazy. And the fact that he was returned home, I think uninjured, is just phenomenal. So this just happened this morning, I think. I'll put a link in the description. But also, I wanted to see what breed Beuford is. Let's see, Beuford rescues Cody. What breed? Let's see if it will give me what I'm looking for. Sometimes it's too soon and it's just not like fed into the system yet. You have to wait a couple of days or something. Oh, my video came up. That's cute. So yeah, I'm not finding it other than my own video. But like I said, I will put toddler missing in Arizona led to safety by ranch dog. Maybe it'll tell us in this short video what type. This is from, I'll do the Seattle one that's 39 seconds long.
Look on dollar.com to get our lowest rates.
Why are you in my house? Arizona high desert. Search teams scoured the area but found no sign of little Bowden. But Beuford, the ranch dog, did 7 miles away.
Big dog.
Down the driveway, then my dog was sitting down there with the little kid. Just brought him up from the horse pasture and brought him over to the gate and was just hanging out with him.
Well, so Beuford's owner, who you just heard from there, said the only explanation he can think of is that maybe the toddler followed the power lines all the way to the property. Beuford is back to work, but his owners did reward him with a steak dinner. Good boy.
He should at least get that.
Yeah, exactly. Just follow the trail. Good for you, buddy.
Okay, well, that didn't tell us what type of dog, but that's all right. We can look into it more later. One of the things that I saw did say what type of dog, and that they're known for being like guardians and really protective like that. So not just that particular dog, Beuford, but that breed, which is just phenomenal. It just brings tears of joy to my eyes. I can't imagine that little boy. The rancher said that the little boy was very scared and that he was crying, of course, when he first found him, and that he only found him because his dog, I think, like found him under a tree and then brought him to the gate, and then the rancher found him, and then he knew that this kid was missing. He knew about it, and he was able to like take him inside and get him some water and some food and get him to safety, which is just amazing. I mean, if that little baby had fallen into the wrong hands, I mean, not to mention all the other possibilities of wild animals and things, but, you know, a disgusting, creepy pedo rancher, no one would be the wiser. I mean, that's just gross. But thank goodness that this rancher was as pure and helpful as the dog. So Eichner is the name of that disgusting shooter at the college, Florida State University, which one of my nephews went to school there. So that's just extra terrifying to me. I mean, any open shooter is terrifying. I think that 7 or 8 people were shot. I think 2 were deceased and 6 have injuries. And I did see one interview of a student who watched somebody drop to her expiration right in front of her eyes. She said that this woman was penetrated through the back by a bullet, and for some reason I think she was wearing purple. The student that was describing it, she was just like doing a Zoom live from her dorm room, and it was pretty cool that she was being interviewed on the news like that, being an eyewitness and so close up and so traumatized. And she was very well composed, but still, it just is absolutely nuts. And then the kid, Eichner, Ickner, we'll call him Ickner because it's so freaking gross. His mother-in-law was a sheriff's deputy for 18 years, and that it was her weapon that he used. Really insane. Really insane. So yeah, 7 miles for little tiny legs like that is crazy. And I mean, maybe there's more to the story. Maybe he was picked up by somebody and then released, but I wouldn't think so. I would think anybody creepy enough to pick him up for all the wrong reasons wouldn't be decent enough to just drop him off safely like that. So it's a miracle. It truly is a miracle. I mean, there's very few stories of 2-year-olds that go missing that are found unscathed. I mean, how traumatic for the parents. I mean, the parents are probably going to have PTSD forever and ever. Oh, man. I know I've shared on my channel at least once about when my older son, who's now 20, the one who just became a dad, when he was about, I think, 2 years old, 3 years old. Yeah, he was probably only 2. He would have been only 2. And he was totally nonverbal. And we were at the playground and it was crowded. And he walked away from the play structure that we were at with another kid. And it took me a second to notice. I was there with my other toddler was probably 5. And so I only had the 2 at the time, the 5-year-old and the 2-year-old. And like I said, it was really crowded. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't looking at my cell phone or anything. It was just a lot of kids. And all of a sudden he wasn't in the mix. And I immediately stepped up on top of a picnic table, was yelling his name, was looking all around. I was completely freaking out. I almost dialed 911 immediately. I called my husband. And I hadn't called 911, but while I was talking to my husband, somebody came running up to me and they said, "Oh, is that your kid? He went down to the lake with that other kid and that other kid's parents." And I was just like, what? He was out of my sight for, I don't even know, 30 seconds or something. And the entire space of time that he was missing, that I wasn't sure of his safety, couldn't have been more than 2 minutes, but it felt like 1,000 freaking years. Like I was losing it, absolutely losing it, because I know from watching true crime, and this was 18 years ago, but I know that as each second passes, the circumference of the possibility of how far away they can get, especially if they're in a car, if they've been abducted. But this was just crazy. The other parents felt very bad. They thought that he had come up to me and asked me, and he had come up to me, but he was 2 years old. He didn't have words. He didn't speak. He just came up to me, and they were kind of far away. So they probably had said, "Well, why don't you go ask your mom if it's okay?" I mean, it was all completely innocent and it was all resolved really quickly. But that was so frightening. And, I almost didn't share the story because it resolved so quickly and so well that it's almost irrelevant. But like for this family to be overnight without their kid, they were probably praying and praying and praying that he was still alive. They probably had the worst expectations, if he was alive, of what kind of condition he might be in. Yeah. I was so panicked. I don't think I've ever lost track of any of my babies other than that one time for that few seconds. It's like you just got to keep eyes on them at all times. And like I said, it was before the days of cell phones. It makes me think of like Summer Wells, and her mom admits that she was obsessively watching TikTok videos on her cell phone while Summer was swimming in a very, very large pond where she couldn't reach the bottom. That's why I've always figured that Summer probably drowned. They probably rescued her. They probably didn't want to go to jail for child neglect. And so they have always hidden the truth. But it's also entirely possible that that's not what happened. I mean, that's what Casey Anthony essentially tried to say is what happened with Kaylee, her little baby, was that she accidentally drowned in her parents' pool, maybe even under her dad's watch. I mean, Casey Anthony is so full of lies. We know that. And we know that she probably very aggressively abused that little baby and caused her to not be alive anymore. And then drove around with her rotting in the freaking trunk of the car for like a month. For like a month, she stayed away from her mom and dad's house where she lived. They lived near Disney World in Orlando, and she was mostly driving around Tampa area, like the total other side of the state, for about a month with this in her trunk. And then it seemed like at one point she probably hid her in the backyard under the little playhouse that the grandparents had gotten her, one of those adorable little plastic playhouses. They had a mailbox and everything. It seemed like she was probably buried under that for a short space of time, and then basically discarded out in the woods, half a mile or mile, no more than a mile from the house. And then, they tried to point the finger at the utility person that found her when he was just out taking a leak and he was working and, didn't want to take the time to find a regular bathroom or outhouse, and tried to blame it on him. I mean, ugh, so gross. So gross. Jose Baez, what a freaking scumbag, her lawyer. So disgusting. I wrote a long story in the comments on Ninja's channel about a scary experience. Oh, can you copy and paste it, Anna? No, I'm more than happy if you want to share it here, and if you don't want to share it here, that's fine too. Which Ninja, so that I can look for it? Because I haven't been keeping up with Ninja because she does a lot of coverage of Maddie Soto's case, and I get so nauseated by Maddie Soto's case, and now I'm getting about as nauseated from all the freaking politics as that. I mean, it's equally as toxic, but I've just been hyper focused on the political crimes, and there's just so many of them. It's just unreal. Yeah, thank you, Anna Bees. I would be very interested in that. If you find the link to it and just want to put the link right here in the chat, that's perfect. But whatever works for you, girl. So the families that I've spoken about that have passed away in some of these plane crashes and helicopter crashes in the last week, the family of 5 in the helicopter over the Hudson River, the mom, the dad, the 3 kids from Spain. Let's talk about each of these cases for a second. Some things that I haven't said yet. Like, I think a lot of international travelers are not feeling very confident to come to the States right now. What would have made that family feel like it was safe to come holiday in New York City? I mean, I guess one of the things I've wondered is if they were encouraged to come visit, that it was a setup. That's what I've wondered. Me, always suspicious of everything all the time. So they came for the mom's 40th birthday, and then it was one of the kids. I think the daughter was turning 9 on the day that it happened, but the trip was planned as an excursion for the whole family for the mom's 40th. And given the state of affairs in this country, I would think that a lot of people would cancel that trip, especially being that wealthy. It's like you don't even worry about if you're going to get the money back. You just, that things are unstable financially and everything else in our United States of America right now. So maybe not the best idea. And I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just thinking that maybe they were encouraged, maybe they were misinformed intentionally that things were safe, because it just doesn't seem to me like a possibility that it was so random and that the helicopter just fell apart on its own. I think a lot of these mechanical failures can happen due to sabotage. They can also happen due to remote control apparatuses. So who knows? Those things that scramble the gauges and the gauges ability to read, to give the pilot the information that they need to continue to fly safely. But that helicopter in particular, the pieces of it were flying off. The propeller flew off. I don't know all the parts of a helicopter, but the main important pieces of the helicopter were falling off, and then it turned upside down, and then it hit the water. So one of the things I did find out that I didn't know about all of these crashes that happen over the rivers, the helicopters and the airplanes, and this makes a lot of sense. Oh, awesome. Look, you have it right here. Let me highlight that. Very cool. That the that's where they're supposed to fly, is over the rivers, over the waterways. That's the safest areas for them to fly. Of course, they're still going to fly over the buildings a little bit, like if they have a helicopter pad on top of a building, which a lot of business executives have that, or if it falls and they're just too close to the shoreline and they crash on land. But a lot of times when like airplanes, especially the smaller airplanes, know that they're having engine failure, they will try to use a road or a freeway as an alternative landing strip. So it seems like that might have been what happened with the Stark family in Florida, in Boca Raton. So that Stark family, the 17-year-old daughter, the 54-year-old father, and the 81-year-old grandfather that crashed about a week ago in Boca Raton. And they were from Del Rey, which is just super close to Mar-a-Lago, So where the plane went down was close to the Boca Raton airport. They were taking off, I think, from Boca Raton Airport, and I think they were headed to Tallahassee, right where Florida State University is, that the high school girl was going to be doing a college visit at Florida State University, I think, is what the report was. That was their destination. And, most accidents do happen upon takeoff or landing. That wasn't the case with the helicopter. But yeah, it was just too close to Mar-a-Lago for my comfort zone. Like, again, another coincidence, right? And then the fact that the Stark family has some type of big business, whether it's the same Stark family that has the realtor and development LLC company or not, I'm not sure of. But a very prominent family in a very small town, very close to Mar-a-Lago. Again, what are the chances? And I won't go down that path. I won't go down that path any further anyway. I'm sure my mind will still go down that path, and I'll share with you what I find relevant. I apologize for the bluish lighting. I keep going from like too blue to not blue enough, and I don't know. There we go. That might be a little bit better. Let's see. The family of the 4 folks that went down in the Catskills Mountains, the ones that landed close to Connecticut, very, very close to Massachusetts, but still in the boundaries of New York State. So there were the 4 family members on that plane. Is it Groff? Is that the family's last name? I don't think this is the same notebook that I had yesterday. I think it's the Groff family, if I'm remembering right. Let me just confirm that real quick. I think it's close if it's not accurate. I hate it when it tries to make me look stuff. It tries to make me do things I'm not trying to do. So that was the family of 4 with the one daughter who's graduating high school who was not on the airplane. And they were Jewish, and the mom was from India, and it happened on Passover. Kopaki is the name of the town. Groff. Yeah, I think that's what I said, isn't it? So Karina Groff, the one who won the National Woman of the Year in 2022, and she had invented some type of COVID mask while she was at MIT. So she was the one studying at NYU to be a neuroengineer, like biomedical neuroengineer. Sounds like somebody who could help put a computer chip in your brain, right? I mean, just looking at it from the perspective of current events. And then her father was a neurosurgeon. Her mother, she was some type of gynecology. She did specialize in some type of gynecology, I think urology, like a urological gynecologist or something like that. And then the brother, what did the brother specialize in? Karina Groff's boyfriend was the one who was working in high finance. And then the brother, I don't remember if I found out what type of profession he was doing. I know he played basketball for Swarthmore College. He was a graduate of Swarthmore College, as was his girlfriend and his dad. And the girlfriend was headed to law school at Harvard, and she specialized in immigration law. So it's just insane. Absolutely insane. Most of this is repeating from my previous videos, but there were things that I hadn't shared yet. Let me see. I do not know. So that happened on Saturday, and it was Saturday night that Governor Shapiro's house was firebombed. And right away, I thought it was so bizarre to me that the president of our country wasn't making a very strong statement, against violence of any type, that he wasn't coming forward to say this is a horrible tragedy, the burning down of a governor's mansion. Thank goodness nobody was injured in that attack. 25 people were sleeping in that house, and some of those people were children. They had a very large celebration of Passover. If you've seen photographs of the tables and the gorgeous rooms that were being utilized for that gathering, it was way more than 25 people that were there. It was a whole community event. And then it was Shapiro's wife and kids and some extended family that were staying the night. I mean, it's a miracle that they all got out safely. It's absolute miracle. But again, first thing our president does is say, oh, well, the perpetrator wasn't a fan of mine. It's like, dude, this isn't about you, but you are the president and you should show up and speak out against this type of violence. But we know what an anti-Semite he is. So my guess is that it didn't bother him that much that a Jewish family's home was under attack on Passover, even if that was a member of the government, but especially it being a Democratic member of our government. So, and Pennsylvania was a very important state for this presidency, for the election, to win the election. And, Pennsylvania just happens to be the state where Elon went and spent, what was it, 120 days that he spent there? Or it was over a month. He spent a long time in Pennsylvania. And I don't think it was 120 days. That'd be 4 months. But he campaigned. It might have been that long. It was at least 4 weeks, I think. He gave Donnie $270 million. And then Donnie made that remarkably intelligent comment a few weeks ago about how Elon was so good with the computers, the ones that count up the votes. It's just like, thanks for saying that, Donnie. That's what I've suspected all along. That's what a lot of people have suspected all along. I am happy to see that more and more channels are talking about not just inquiring if there was cheating going on in the election, but having discussions that are pretty incriminating with evidence that there was cheating going on. We know that a lot of poll places, that they were firebombed, or no, there are bomb threats coming from Russia. That's what I'm trying to say. That some of the polls closed because of bomb threats coming from Russia. And then the people that were at those polls to vote were told that they couldn't vote and they needed to come back later after the bomb scare was over. So there was that. There's always the purging of registered voters. Then there's the destruction of the mail-in votes. I didn't realize until just the last couple of days that the majority of mail-in ballots are done by Democrats. I had no idea. Unless I misinterpreted that information, it seemed like something like 80% of most mail-in ballots happen to be Democratic voters. And it takes me back to the 2016, or was it the 2020? It was the 2020 election when the MAGAs were attacking a building in Michigan, trying to make them stop counting the votes. You guys remember that? And wasn't it mail-in votes that they were counting? And they were banging on the windows and glass and saying stop the count or something like that. I mean, just craziness. But there was a lot of craziness going on in Pennsylvania. I'm sure other states too. And then a lot of that same type of craziness happened in the Gore-Bush election in Florida, where they pull people over and take their IDs, and they might need their ID to vote, or they close down roads from Democratic, mostly Democratic areas. They close down the roads to the voting polls, an hour before the polls close. I mean, just all types of crazy effing tactics. Anna says, so they don't want us to be vaccinated or have any protection from viruses, etc. They went to Red Rum, everyone, all brown and black people, and all the people that are ill, like diabetes, autoimmune disease, and elderly and children, then it'll be survival of the fittest. Right. Yeah, I think that's something that is very cold-hearted, and something that this administration is in full support of. Why won't it let me tap that one? It won't let me tap your last one, but I'll just tap the second to last one. So Anna Bees, your nurse, I'm curious what your opinion is of Donnie and his hatred of masks and his hatred of the jab, as he would call it, the vaccine, and his discouraging people from wearing masks and his discouraging people from getting vaccinated. It almost seems to me, and he destroyed Obama's pandemic plan that was in place. He'd already destroyed that when the pandemic hit. It almost seems to me like he could have been behind the whole pandemic, is what I'm trying to say. I'm curious what you think about that. So I've never really thought that, because I've always been like, oh, well, it started in China, right? Some monkey virus, or, in a lab in China. Well, guess who's got ties to China? The big E. And yeah, they would take out the sick, the elderly, and people with autoimmune diseases. I get really disgusted with the Republican Party, with the extreme, the radical rights, saying that children are our most valuable resource. To me, that's really disgusting. That's like looking at people like their crops. To say that they're our most valuable asset, not so disgusting, but to call them a resource, it seems like you're wanting to consume and exploit them. Like, I know, of course, HR is human resources. I used to work in corporate America, and when I did, I felt like, we are all our most valuable resource. And any other agency that wants to count us as one of their human resources, we're replaceable. One human resource can be replaced with another human resource, no problem, right? Let me close my door one second. Hey, Coco. My puppy dog just came in and pushed it open, so I just wanted to close it so there wouldn't be any outside noise coming in. But yeah, I think we're hitting an hour, and what was it? I think it was his first attempt to red rum the week. Oh, do you really think that, Anna Bees? Wow. Like I said, you're a nurse, and I believe that you are very level-headed and not a theorist of the conspiracy type. Wow. I'm glad I asked you. I'm glad you're here, because I only really thought that a few days ago. I thought, I think that that's what I was thinking too, that was his first attempt. And then what's his second attempt? Is he cooking that up now? I mean, the measles could get really bad really fast. I think the last count was like 500 a couple of days ago. Let's see what Google says today. Measles cases in the US. And it's just so tragic, like little babies, little children passing away. Two hours ago, half of the states have reported measles cases this year. That's crazy. 3 hours ago, 800 cases from 24 states. 3 days ago, I think it was in the 500s. Right now, as of 3 and 4 hours ago, from ABC News and Bloomberg. Oh, but those are fake news, right? I'm being sarcastic, of course. So it says Bloomberg says U.S. measles cases rise 12% in a week to reach 824 states. It is just tragic. Freaking RFK, man. What a sick man. What a very, very, very sick man. And for Donnie to put him as our Secretary of Health is just like an evil joke. Vile. And then Dr. Oz is getting sworn in as, oh, I just looked it up because I didn't know what the letters stood for. It's like C and M, and let's see. But I wanted to find out how many fatalities of the measles, if it's still 2 or 3. Hopefully it's not any higher than that. There were 2 small kids, I know. Yeah, it's still 2. Thank goodness. And that's just from January until March 20th. But what about today? Is that yeah, see, just 6 weeks ago, about on March 7th, the cases were only 220 and now it's 800. That's horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. So anyway, what was the other thing I wanted to look up? Dr. Oz was getting sworn in today for a very young girl faints during Trump's remarks at Dr. Oz. This is Fox News. What's that? At the swearing in ceremony, Dr. Oz, young family member faints. Huh. Were they spooked? Let's see. So he's going to oversee the children's health insurance program. He'll be leading Medicare and Medicaid. And he's part of Kennedy's thing, Make America Healthy Again. Yeah, give them Big Macs, right? But what is he being sworn in for is what I'm trying to figure out here. Is it the CMMS? Is that what it is? Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services? I thought it was something else. Because it seemed very administrative, like Yeah, it is. That is what it is. The CMMS. CMS is what they call it. So, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Because, yeah, I looked up CMMS and found something else. So, it's computerized maintenance management system. So that's what I was thinking that he was being hired for, a computerized maintenance management system. But even though it is two completely different things, it might not be that far off, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Yes, telling everyone not to get vaccinated. Right. And then to like use chlorine bleach in your eyeball or something. I mean, he didn't say to put it in your eye. I think he was more insinuating that you might want to inject it into a vein or something, but literally chlorine bleach. Like, I mean, it's like Jonestown. Like, how many people might have done something like that? Those numbers never came out. I'm sure that there were a lot of poison control calls about things like that, and ER visits about things like that, and people that didn't even make it to the ER. So RFK Jr., Robert, I think he was 15 when his father was assassinated. And I think he was 19 when Martha Moxley was essentially assassinated, but she wasn't really assassinated. She was grotesquely and gruesomely violated and assaulted and bludgeoned. And RFK, being 19 at the time, was really tight with those Skakel boys. Really tight with the Skakel boys, who ranged in age from 15 to early 20s, I think. Like they were Catholic, so all the kids were like right in a row. One of the kids was a sister, and then I think there were 6 or 7 boys, the Skakel boys. But RFK was tight with them, and that happened to their next door neighbor, Martha Moxley. Michael Skakel allegedly confessed to it a couple of times, and he was imprisoned for it twice. And then RFK and Donnie passed a law on the 45th anniversary of her bludgeoning that no one could ever try Michael Skakel again. That was insane, you guys. That was so effing crazy. What a disgusting man. RFK wrote a book about how Michael Skakel was framed. And no, he wasn't framed, in my opinion, but they did try to frame Keith Littleton, the man who was hired to be kind of the babysitter, essentially, quote unquote, tutor for the out of control Michael Skakel and his Tommy, his brother that was 17, I think, that was fooling around with Martha. Martha had a thing for Tommy. So Martha Moxley, 45-year anniversary. And yeah, that book that JFK Jr. wrote had everything to do with Skakel getting sprung a second time. And I think we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of it this fall, this Halloween. Let's see. Yeah, it will be the 50th this Halloween. So this is what Wikipedia says. Martha Elizabeth Moxley, August 16th, 1960 to October 30th, 1975, was a 15-year-old American high school student from Greenwich, Connecticut, who was red-rummed in 1975. Moxley was last seen alive, spending time at the home of the Skakel family across the street from her home in Bellhaven. Michael Skakel, also age 15 at the time, was convicted in 2002, so 27 years later. He was 42 years old the first time he was convicted. And let me just say that he was married with a toddler, and that woman left him high and dry the day he got arrested. Like, she knew he did it, in my opinion. So he was convicted in 2002 of red rumming Moxley and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. In 2013, he was granted a new trial by a Connecticut judge who ruled that his counsel had been inadequate, and he was released on $1.2 million bail. December 30th, 2016, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled 4-3 to reinstate Skakel's conviction. The Connecticut Supreme Court reversed itself on May 4th, 2018, and ordered a new trial. On October 30th, 2020, so remember who was president, and he hadn't lost the election yet. That was a week later. But I think they rushed it to make sure that they got it done while Donnie was still president. And this is why I think that they're so tight. The 45th anniversary of Moxley's Red Rum, the state of Connecticut announced that it would not retry Skakel for Moxley's Red Rum. The case attracted worldwide publicity as Skakel was a nephew of Ethel Skakel Kennedy, the widow of Senator RFK. So they're cousins. RFK Jr. and Skakels are all cousins. So just want to look up how many. I think it was 7 kids, and that 6 of them were boys and 1 was a girl. Let's see. Is it not going to tell me? And Skakel family tree, that should tell me. Man, it's so complicated. I'm pretty sure it was 6 brothers. This is ridiculous. These giant families. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. Rush Skakel children. That's the dad. He had 7 children. Okay, so yeah, 1 was a daughter, and then the 6 sons. And then there was one other thing I wanted to look up. The book that RFK Jr. wrote that I believe, and a lot of people believe, is responsible for what happened on the 45th anniversary. And when that happened on the 45th anniversary of her bludgeoning, her mother was still alive. And then I think her mother passed away this last fall, as did Robert F. Kennedy's wife, Ethel. She also passed away this last fall. They both did. But what was I trying to find? The book that RFK wrote. About Skakel and Moxley. It was just called Framed. That's the title of it. Oh, goodness gracious. So Mark Furman wrote Murder in Greenwich. I'm sorry, Red Rum in Greenwich, which I have actually read. That was a book that I couldn't put down. And he pretty much was responsible for getting Skakel convicted the first time. But there's been a lot of books written about the whole thing. So the whole title of RFK Jr.'s stupid book is Framed: Why Michael Skakel Spent Over a Decade in Prison for a Murder He Didn't Commit. What a sick MF. He's a disgrace to the Kennedy name. And yes, he's causing the epidemic, the measles epidemic. He's so disgusting. Annabise, have you heard me talk about the photograph that I saw of him not too long ago where he's wearing, it looks like Levi's jeans, and I don't think he has a shirt on, and I know he didn't have shoes on, and he's on his back deck with a giant vat of lard or fat that he's deep frying a turkey in. So he's got, I believe the bird was actually frozen, which I would think would make like an explosion, but maybe I'm imagining the frozen part. Anyway, he's lowering with like wires this giant turkey into this vat that's only like an inch wider than the diameter of the turkey. And he's shirtless and he's shoeless. And he's doing this all by his big old self, like showing off how tough he is and how, he's all ripped. And I'm just thinking, you dumb mother effer. Like, how many people that have done that barefoot without shirts on have survived or landed their heinies in the ER? I mean, I couldn't believe it. And then to take a picture of it and then to make that picture public. Let me see if I can find it. If I can find it, then I can put a link to it in the description. RF, because I'm sure I saw it online. RFK Jr. Deep fat frying a turkey. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with deep fat frying a turkey. I've eaten that and it's delicious. RFK Jr. deep frying turkey images. Okay, he has shoes on in this one. He's wearing a pink shirt. No, I'm sorry. He has a shirt on. He has no shoes. This must have been a different year. OMG. OMG. So it looks like he does this every year. What a weirdo. Because oh man. OMG. Because there's 1 year of him doing it when he's like a race car driver, or is that somebody else? RFK Racing, deep frying turkey never looked so heroic. This could be like AI. I'm going to hit visit. No, I'm not. I'm looking up too much stuff. I need to put that down because there was one more thing that I wanted to say might be AI before I wrap up today. Now I got you back. I'm having trouble with my phone and can't hear you, but I see you now. I'm glad you're still here, my dear. Thank you so much for being such a loyal viewer. My goodness. And there. The thing I wanted to say, and I'm so glad I remembered to say this before wrapping up for the day, because like 20 minutes ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to wrap it up. And I need to say this. The videos and photos of the mega MAGA prison in El Salvador that have been all over the internet the last few days, especially on TikTok, but it's everywhere, where it looks like a couple of burgundy colored stains on the earth from the satellite photos. You guys, you know what I'm talking about, Annabise? I want to underscore that there's been no proof that I know of that those are not artificial intelligence or Photoshop or something like that. So I just wanted to clarify that. The picture was terrible. Oh, the picture of him with his deep fat frying. Did I show it? Here, this, can you see this one? This is him. I don't even know if that's him. If it was a long time ago in a race car outfit. We don't want to see that stuff. But here, they have like a whole video of him. Well, he has his shoes on in that photograph, but there's photos of him without the shoes. Here we go, a 26-second video of him. Let's see if we can show this. Dangerous barefoot turkey cooking method on Thanksgiving.
All right, this is 40 minutes later.
Okay. It's so hard to see. I'll put a link to it in the description. It looks delicious, but it looks to me like you're being extremely reckless. It looks like you're being extremely reckless, which is really terrible from somebody who's famous and from a famous family. And essentially, a lot of people are going to look up to him and be like, well, if he's deep fat frying a turkey barefoot, then it must be safe, right? Okay, so you're saying the picture was terrible, the El Salvador picture, right? And so I just want to be clear that I don't know that that is a real picture. And if it is a real picture, I don't know if it's what it looks like it is, or if it's, I don't know what it is. I would imagine that it will be found out one way or another, whether it's like a deep fake or if it's just Merlot. I mean, come on, it's like the color of, you know, it looks like they're potentially doing the same thing that happened in World War II at the concentration camps. There's like a giant pile next to one of these burgundy stains on the earth in the middle of all the buildings. The pile, and I put a screenshot of it on my community post. It should be there right now. The pile honestly looks like it could be bodies, dare I say. I should have done the you know, the trigger warning retroactively now. Sorry, I should have done it 5 seconds ago. Anyway, and it might not be, and it could just be freaking artificial intelligence. It could be anything. It could be a pile of deep fried turkeys for all we know. I think it looks like, yes, what you just said. It is exactly what it looks like, but could it be just a deep fake? I mean, allegedly, this is video or photos taken from the satellites. So one of the things that we all need to know is that the satellites can see very clearly, even at night, exactly what's going on. Of course, there's going to be areas, you know, if they're undercover or, you know, inside, or just an area where the satellites don't capture all of the parts of the earth. But for the most part, the satellites have a very clear image of everything going on in civilization, even in El Salvador. So it's something to keep in mind when there's cases like Idaho 4 or Kylie Rodney, that there are these satellite images of all the time leading up to the event, and all the time after the event. There are these satellite images. It is not legal for them to use those satellite images in a court of law. And they don't like to admit that they have those satellite images because people get really bent out of shape about privacy and Big Brother, but those images exist, and every once in a while it's admitted that they exist. So these images of the stains on the ground at the prison in El Salvador may or may not be real images. They may or may not be doctored. They may or may not be artificial intelligence. We just don't know yet. But my guess is that that'll all be coming out in the next few days. But I'm really curious if it was indeed Mr. Garcia that met with the senator, the Maryland senator, yesterday, and why he had a baseball cap on. I mean, like Adam Mockler said in his video, to maybe hide the fact that they shaved his head, but why not show a picture where you can see his full face? Because they had him from one side and they had him from the other side. And then there was a third photo that had him from the freaking back. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. It'd be one thing if that was his wife that was visiting with him, because she would know for sure if it wasn't him. But how would the senator know whether that's the real McCoy or a talented actor who could pull it off and convince him that he was indeed the person? I'm not at all convinced. So I'm going to wrap up, my dear. You're the best, Anna Bees. I'm ready to send you another prize for being my most loyal viewer. So I said something yesterday about doing a bracelet giveaway. So no, you are. I'm trying to think what bracelet I would want to give away. I can't give away the ones I have on. I could almost give away this one. Let me see if you like this one, and I'll send it to you if you do. If you don't, then I can find a better one. This is rose quartz and some kind of like leopard jasper, and then a couple of beads on each side. Are they? I think they're carnelian. Yeah. So, and it's on elastic. So we got rose quartz, carnelian, and then leopard jasper. And if you like it, it'll be my prize to you. Yay! And if you want to email me your address again, because I always delete that information, email me where you want me to send it, and I would love to send it to you. So very cool. Very, very cool. You're the best, dear friend, and I hope you have a really good weekend. Thank you for being my chat. Yay. I'm so excited. That's awesome. Because, yeah, I was going to try to get a bracelet together to do like a giveaway, but I didn't pull it together. I was like, I'll do that in a couple of days. So, yay. All right. Well, I want to reward you for being so committed to supporting my channel. So that's very cool. And I hope you have a great weekend. Love and light, my dear. Eat your veggies, drink your water. Stay close to the truth. Goodbye. Good night. Yeah, it's 5:02 here. And I think that's everything. Love and light. Just keep on keeping on. And I will see you very soon. And let's see how I do the end stream. I need to get this fixed. So I have my cursor. I have to do it by hand like this. All right. Have a great weekend. See you soon.